Your stomach is filled with acid strong enough to dissolve metal. Right now, at this very moment, the organ sitting in your belly is one of the most hostile environments on your body. And if it weren't doing something almost impossible every few days, that acid would eat straight through the wall holding it. You'd digest yourself from the inside out. So why doesn't that happen? Because your stomach rebuilds itself from scratch before the damage ever becomes a problem. Every 3 to 5 days, your stomach lining is completely replaced. Not repaired, not patched, replaced. Every single cell on the inner surface of your stomach dies, gets scraped away by your own digestive juices, and is replaced by brand new cells that grew up from below. By the time you finish reading this sentence, thousands of cells in your stomach will have been destroyed, and thousands more will have taken their place. To understand why this matters, you need to know what you're actually dealing with inside your gut. Your stomach produces roughly 2 liters of hydrochloric acid every single day. That's about half a gallon of liquid so corrosive it can dissolve calcium, break down bone, and kill nearly every bacterium that enters your mouth with your food. The pH of your stomach acid sits between 1.5 and 3.5. For reference, battery acid has a pH of about 1. Your stomach is operating in that same neighborhood. It's essentially a bag of chemical weapons sloshing around inside you. And it needs to be, because without that acid you couldn't break down proteins, you couldn't kill the pathogens hiding in your meals, and you'd starve to death even while eating plenty. But here's the problem no one talks about. Acid doesn't just dissolve food, it dissolves everything, including the stomach itself. This is not a theoretical risk. This is what happens in patients with severe ulcers. The protective layer fails, the acid reaches the stomach wall, and it burns a hole right through it. A perforated ulcer is a medical emergency. People die from it. The acid that was supposed to protect you becomes the thing destroying you. So how does your body prevent this? The answer starts with mucus. Your stomach produces a thick, sticky layer of mucus that coats the entire inner surface. It's only about 1 millimeter thick, but that thin barrier is the difference between digestion and self-destruction. The mucus creates a nearly neutral zone between the acid sloshing around in the stomach cavity and the delicate cells of the stomach wall. Embedded within that mucus are bicarbonate ions, the same compound found in baking soda, which neutralize any acid molecules that manage to penetrate the barrier. But mucus alone isn't enough. It gets worn down, acid erodes it, digestive enzymes chew at it, physical movement from churning food tears at it. If the mucus were a permanent shield, it would eventually fail. That's where the replacement cycle comes in. Your stomach lining is one of the fastest regenerating tissues in your entire body. The inner surface of your stomach is folded into millions of tiny pits called gastric pits. At the bottom of those pits are stem cells. These stem cells divide constantly, pushing new cells upward toward the surface like passengers on a very slow escalator. As the new cells rise, they mature, take on their specialized roles, and eventually reach the surface where they do their work. Within 3 to 5 days, those same cells are dead, slewed off into the acid bath, and digested along with your food. The cycle never stops. You are never more than a few days away from having a completely new stomach lining. Dr. John Hunt, a gastroenterologist at New York University, has studied this renewal process extensively. His research has shown that the stomach doesn't just replace cells one at a time. It replaces entire sheets of tissue in coordinated waves. When damage occurs in one area, neighboring cells stretch to cover the wound within minutes, and then stem cells accelerate their division to replace what was lost. It's emergency repair at biological speed. This system works so well that most people never think about it. You eat spicy food, you drink coffee, you take an aspirin, and your stomach handles it. Not because the acid backs down, but because the lining outpaces the destruction. For decades, this was the prevailing medical understanding. The stomach protects itself through rapid renewal, and when that system fails, ulcers form. Most doctors believed ulcers were caused by stress, spicy food, or too much acid. The treatment was antacids, bland diets, and relaxation. Then in 1982, 2 Australian doctors changed everything. Robin Warren was a pathologist at Royal Perth Hospital. He was examining stomach biopsies under a microscope when he noticed something strange. Curved, spiral-shaped bacteria were living in the mucus layer of patients with gastritis. Not in a few patients, in nearly all of them. Warren showed his findings to Barry Marshall, a young gastroenterology trainee. Marshall tried to culture the bacteria, but for weeks nothing grew. He left the cultures in his lab over a long holiday weekend, and when he returned, he found colonies of bacteria thriving on the plates. The organism had been growing the whole time. It just grew slowly. In an environment where nothing was supposed to survive at all, this bacterium had not only survived, it had adapted. They named it Helicobacter pylori, and what they discovered next overturned a century of medical dogma. H. pylori doesn't just survive stomach acid, it neutralizes it. The bacterium produces an enzyme called urease, which converts urea in the stomach into ammonia and carbon dioxide. Ammonia is a base. It neutralizes the acid in a tiny bubble surrounding the bacterium, creating a protected pocket where it can live. Then it burrows into the mucus layer, attaches to the stomach cells beneath, and begins to disrupt the renewal cycle. The medical establishment was skeptical. Bacteria couldn't live in the stomach. Everyone knew that. But Marshall and Warren had the evidence. To prove their point, Marshall did something that would be unthinkable today. He drank a petri dish filled with H. pylori. Within days, he developed severe gastritis, nausea, vomiting, inflammation of the stomach lining. His own biopsy showed the bacteria colonizing his stomach. He had given himself the disease to prove the cause. He then treated himself with antibiotics and bismuth, and the infection cleared. The gastritis resolved. The stomach lining healed. Marshall and Warren published their findings, and over the following years, the evidence became overwhelming. More than half the world's population carries H. pylori. In developed countries, it causes most peptic ulcers and significantly increases the risk of stomach cancer. The treatment that emerged from their discovery was revolutionary. Instead of lifelong antacid therapy, patients could be cured in 2 weeks with antibiotics. In 2005, Barry Marshall and Robin Warren received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. The citation praised them for their discovery that stomach ulcers were caused by a bacterium, not by stress or acid alone. But their work also revealed something unsettling about the stomach's renewal system. H. pylori persists despite the fact that the entire lining is replaced every few days. How? Because the bacterium burrows deep enough into the mucus to anchor itself to cells before they're shed. It rides the conveyor belt of cellular renewal, hitching a ride on new cells as old ones are slewed away. It's been doing this for at least 60,000 years. Genetic analysis of H. pylori strains suggests the bacterium has co-evolved with humans since our species first migrated out of Africa. It's been living in human stomachs longer than we've been living outside of Africa. The stomach's renewal system is remarkable, but it's not invincible. Certain medications, particularly non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like aspirin and ibuprofen, weaken the mucus barrier and slow the regeneration cycle. Chronic alcohol use does the same. When the balance between destruction and repair tips too far toward destruction, ulcers form. When H. pylori is present, the risk increases dramatically. The bacterium doesn't just survive the renewal cycle, it exploits it. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Your stomach is doing this right now. As you sit here listening to these words, acid is churning inside you, dissolving cells, and new cells are rising from the depths of those gastric pits to replace them. You are, in a very real sense, digesting yourself, not as a metaphor, as a biological fact. And the only reason you're not in agony is because the replacement is happening faster than the destruction. Your stomach has been solving this problem for as long as complex animal life has existed. The first animals with true stomachs appeared over 500 million years ago. Since then, every stomach on Earth has faced the same paradox: produce enough acid to digest food, but don't digest yourself in the process. The solution evolution arrived at was not a better barrier or a weaker acid. It was speed. Outrun the damage. Replace faster than you destroy. This pattern repeats throughout your body. Your skin replaces itself every 2 to 3 weeks. Your red blood cells are recycled every 4 months. Your skeleton is completely remodeled over roughly a decade. You are not a fixed object being maintained. You are a process being continuously enacted. The cells that make up your body right now are not the same cells that made you up a year ago. You are a pattern, not a thing. Your stomach understood this before you did. Long before philosophy or physics ever questioned the nature of identity, your gut had already solved the problem. Not by being permanent, but by being replaceable. Not by avoiding damage, but by outgrowing it. So the next time you eat something questionable or skip a meal or stress yourself into knots, remember this. Your stomach isn't just digesting your food. It's digesting itself and rebuilding and digesting again and rebuilding over and over for your entire life. A few billion years of evolution figured out that the best way to survive is not to avoid destruction, but to be renewed. Not once. Not eventually, every few days. You are not something that endures. You are something that persists. And your stomach, the most hostile organ in your body, knew it all along.